Shalom, and welcome back to Bnei Noach Academy, Thoughts on Life. Please remember to hit the like button, to subscribe, and most importantly, to share this insight and inspiration with friends and family. A recent class, which was a series of classes on the topic of tithing, generated the following question from a very dedicated viewer, from Anna. And she asks, as I was listening to today's lesson, a question came up in my mind. Is volunteering, may it be considered as a form of tithe? In other words, a type of personal contribution or gifting, especially if it is practiced on a regular basis, for instance, in a welfare organization. I wanted to read the question because I think it's a profound question. It's a very practical one. So first of all, one can obviously not take, quote, matters into their own hand. We always find in the Torah that when it comes to judging, one could be impartial. One could be objective when it comes to judging someone else. When it comes to judging oneself, unfortunately, or I should say fortunately, the way we were designed by God is that we are too close to ourselves. We, quote, love ourselves too much, which is a healthy thing at the end of the day, but that also precludes us from being able to be a objective judge and referee, so to speak, on certain matters. Because, for example, if one should say, you know what, my tithe is $100, but I'm going to volunteer time and I'm going to, quote, pay myself for that time. Well, how are you going to pay yourself? Are you going to pay yourself at the rate of $10 an hour or whatever the minimum wage is? Or maybe perhaps at the rate of what a lawyer takes, and maybe $100 is not enough for an hour and just 1 hour of service, and you've already burned through the $100. That is somewhat subjective. And of course, a person cannot be trusted or cannot trust oneself to make a real, true judgment on that. Because if I was hiring someone else to do the very same work, perhaps I would hire somebody for just $12 an hour, or maybe somebody would do it for free. What I'm pointing out is that there is really no way one is able to determine for themselves, one is able to decide for themselves how to exchange that money for actual service. Whereas perhaps, and this is my belief, that if you donated that money to organization and then went to that very same organization and got paid for doing certain work, say, helping the poor, whatever it is, and they paid you what their, quote, standard fee is for that job, their standard salary, that's perfectly fine. Because they, as an organization, as a body that makes these decisions all the time, they are paying you what they would have paid someone else. And naturally, if they pay you more as a favoritism, that wouldn't be right. Now, as to the actual question about volunteering time, I do want to tell you that the sages in the Talmud make an emphasis on the fact that it's not enough to give charity, to, so to speak, tithe from your money, but you're supposed to give charity also from your time and from your effort. Sometimes, for some individuals, it's easier, perhaps, in many ways, to just write a check, to just give money and get out of my face, and not to get directly involved, not to be actively involved. We need to be actively involved, but of course, we need to be actively involved where we are needed. Okay, let me just use an example. Say you are an accountant and you have the ability to help an organization that is feeding the poor with your talents, expertise, and experience. And instead, you're going to volunteer just to hand out sandwiches or to put down tablecloths on the table, which is a nice thing. It's necessary. But that can be done by a teenager. That can be done by somebody who is not educated. Instead, if you were to offer your services and say, look, I can help you with your books. I can save you money. I could help you better run this organization and use the charity money that you're taking in more efficiently. That would be a contribution. Okay, but if for you to just go and volunteer just to mop the floors may not be the best use of your charity time. But certainly a person should roll up their sleeves and give to others, not just money, but work, involvement, and put in energy, be directly involved. You see, what happens is sometimes if you just send money, yeah, you've done your part. But what's happening there? What is really going on? Are things really being done right when you get directly involved? Even for a few hours of volunteer time here and there, you can see what's going on. You can now perhaps make some suggestions. You can help out, and you could have a much greater impact than just the several dollars or whatever it is that you sent. So certainly, in short, one should give the tithes. One cannot substitute it for anything else. The money has to be given. How that money is used should be decided objectively, not by you. And number three, always, I strongly encourage you, try to get involved in a place where you're needed and where your expertise and experience could be best used. And that is the ultimate charity.